Fine, then just do it already. Ethan's voice boomed from the kitchen into the living room, where I sat going through last week's expenses. Do what? I fired back, not looking up. You should transfer the money to her account. You know she's struggling. You gave her almost everything, didn't you? I closed my laptop, exhaling sharply. I don't think that's necessary, he said, his tone ice cold. He walked into the room, hand running through his messy hair. You're really cold-hearted, you know that? I flicked my eyes to him, challenging him silently. He didn't respond, just shook his head and walked away, leaving the tension in the air. The past few years of our marriage had been smooth. Ethan managed a bustling local cafe. I worked as a software developer. Our routines were mundane but comforting, until yesterday. It all started when our doorbell buzzed while we were having dinner. Ethan went to answer it, and I heard a woman's voice, shaky but familiar. Moments later, Ethan walked into the dining room, his sister Lindsay trailing behind. Rachel, this is Lindsay, Ethan said softly, barely able to look me in the eye. She needs a place to stay for a while. Lindsay, whom I had only heard about in passing, stood there looking much older than her 35 years. Her eyes darted around, never settling on anything for too long. She held onto a large duffel bag, knuckles white from the grip. I forced a smile. Of course, Lindsay, make yourself comfortable. Hours later, Ethan and Lindsay were talking in the kitchen while I sat stiffly on the couch, pretending to watch a show. Their voices were hushed, but I could catch bits and pieces. Something about financial distress, emotional burnout. None of it felt right. So, how long do you think she's staying? I asked Ethan as we got ready for bed. Not sure, he responded, his voice tired. Just until she gets back on her feet. I nodded, turning off the bedside lamp. Something gnawed at me, a sense of unease I couldn't shake off. The next morning, our usual routine was disrupted. Lindsay was already in the kitchen, making herself at home. Good morning, Rachel, she greeted with an unsettlingly cheerful tone. Morning, Lindsay, I replied, putting on a neutral mask. I grabbed my coffee and headed to my office, giving Ethan a quick peck on the cheek. See you tonight. Work was my solace. The lines of code calmed my racing thoughts, but Lindsay's sudden appearance crept in now and then. Every time I tried to focus, the image of her standing limply at our doorstep popped into my mind. When I returned home, I found Ethan and Lindsay laughing over some old stories. They didn't notice me come in. The scent of dinner wafted through the air, but I felt no appetite. Anything I need to know about your sister's return? I asked Ethan later that night. He sighed heavily. Lindsay's been through a lot, job losses, a rough divorce. She just needs time. But why now? I pressed. Why not reach out sooner? Rachel, please, he almost pleaded, just give her a chance. I closed my eyes, biting my lip. There was more to Lindsay's story, more than Ethan wanted to admit. I decided to keep a close eye on her. For now, I would play the supportive wife, but I knew I'd need to dig deeper. Lindsay was a storm brewing, and I could sense that she would disrupt the calm we had built. Over the next few days, my discomfort about Lindsay's presence only grew. Ethan's sister settled in like she had never left. I observed, my senses tuned to each interaction, every little change in the atmosphere of our home. Tensions were already simmering beneath the surface. One morning, I found Lindsay lounging on the sofa, remote in hand, feet propped up on the coffee table. Rachel, could you pass me some water? She asked, not even glancing away from the TV. I bit back a sharp retort, grabbed a glass of water, and handed it to her. Here, I said, my voice clipped. Thanks, she replied absent-mindedly. Ethan wasn't aware of these small moments. Whenever he was around, Lindsay transformed into the picture of humility, polite, and grateful. But when we were alone, a different side of her emerged. One evening, after dinner, Ethan had to rush back to the cafe to handle a staffing issue. Lindsay and I were left alone. I cleaned up, and she sat at the table flipping through a magazine. So, Rachel, have you thought about letting me borrow your car, just for a couple of days till I get things sorted? Lindsay asked, her tone casual but laced with expectation. I don't think that's a good idea, I replied, keeping my voice steady. We need it for work. Right, she said, smirking slightly. Ethan mentioned your job. A software developer, huh? Sounds demanding. It is, I said, sensing some form of judgment in her words. Must be nice, she added, not looking up. Having a stable job and all. I work hard for it, I countered, wiping the table a little too forcefully. I'm sure you do, she returned, her voice dripping with something I couldn't quite place. Just don't be too harsh on Ethan. He's always been a bit naive, you know. My hands froze, but I didn't rise to the bait. I finished my task in silence, leaving her still seated at the table. That night, as Ethan and I climbed into bed, I could feel the invisible weight of an impending storm. Another argument flared between Ethan and me a few days later. Lindsay needs our support, he insisted, his patience wearing thin. It's not about support, I argued back. It's about boundaries. She's becoming a burden. She's my sister, Rachel. We can't just throw her out because she's inconvenient, he stated firmly. In the days that followed, Lindsay's behavior only became more problematic. She stayed up late, making noise that kept us awake. I'd find the kitchen a mess after she cooked. She seemed to have little regard for the home we had so carefully maintained. Ethan, you have to talk to her, I said one night, frustration boiling over. I will, I promise, he said, tiredly rubbing his temples. But I knew he wouldn't. His blind spot for his sister was too large. One particularly exhausting evening, after catching Lindsay rummaging through my belongings in our bedroom, I had to force myself to stay calm. What are you doing? I demanded. Just looking for some socks, she replied innocently, though her eyes told a different story. We have a guest room for a reason, Lindsay. Please respect our space, I said, my voice hard. Lindsay didn't respond, just gave me a small smile that didn't reach her eyes and walked out. As I lay in bed that night, Ethan asleep beside me, I knew I needed to take action. Lindsay was becoming more than just a nuisance. She was a threat to the peace and stability of our home, and I wasn't going to let her tear everything apart. It was just a matter of how much more I could take before reaching my breaking point. The tension in the house was as sharp as a knife edge. Ethan was drifting away, drawn into Lindsay's world of manipulation. It was subtle at first, small remarks and suggestions, but over time it became clear Lindsay had a plan. One Saturday morning, Ethan sat down next to me with a sigh. Rachel, Lindsay thinks she's overstaying her welcome, he began cautiously. Does she? I replied, folding my arms. She suggested that maybe we could help her get back on her feet by giving her some financial help, he said, looking uneasy. No, Ethan. She's been here for weeks, and all she's done is create chaos, I replied sharply. She needs to show some initiative and find a job. Later, I overheard Lindsay talking to Ethan in the kitchen. Ethan, I feel like a burden, but Rachel? She's being so cold, she said softly, sniffling as if she was on the verge of tears. She's just stressed, Linz, Ethan replied, trying to console her. I don't think she wants me here. I'll leave if that's what you both want, she said, sounding pitiful. Ethan hesitated. No, we'll figure something out. Rachel just needs time. That evening, I found Lindsay rifling through our living room drawers. What are you looking for, Lindsay? I asked pointedly. I was just trying to find a pen, she responded, a hint of defiance in her eyes. Next time, ask, I said. She shrugged, the smirk playing on her lips, ever so slight, but I caught it. Dinner was a silent affair until Lindsay decided to stir the pot further. You know, Ethan, I overheard some people at the cafe talking. They said Rachel spends a lot of time with her male colleagues after work, she said casually, setting her fork down and giving me a sideways glance. I felt the accusation like a slap. Excuse me? I snapped. Oh, did I misunderstand? My mistake, she said, feigning innocence. Ethan looked troubled, his eyes darting between Lindsay and me. Rachel, is there something I should know? He asked, his voice low. Seriously, Ethan, you're going to believe this nonsense? I replied, my frustration hitting its peak. Lindsay's smirk returned. I'm sorry. I must have misheard, she added, pouring fuel on the fire. After dinner, I cornered Ethan. You know she's trying to turn you against me, right? I said, my voice trembling with anger. She's just stressed, Rachel. She didn't mean it, he said, rubbing his forehead. Open your eyes, Ethan. She's manipulating you. I shouted it without caring if Lindsay could hear. The argument spiraled, with me accusing and Ethan defending. Lindsay's presence in our home became the tipping point for constant stress and bickering between us. One evening, I returned home to find Lindsay sprawled on the couch, chatting on her phone. Yeah, they're out of town this weekend, she said, her eyes meeting mine before quickly looking away. Who are you talking to? I demanded. She ended the call abruptly. Just a friend, she said, standing up. Just a friend? Or are you making plans behind our backs? I shot back. Calm down, Rachel. It's nothing, she replied, but there was a knowing glint in her eyes. That night, as I tried to sleep beside an oblivious Ethan, I knew I was reaching my limit. Her subtle digs, the way she wrapped Ethan around her finger, it all pushed me closer to the edge. The house had turned into a battleground, and I was out of patience. Time was running out, and something had to change. I couldn't sit back and let Lindsay poison our lives any longer. It was time to take control before she destroyed everything we had built. The breaking point came faster than I expected. I came home to find Lindsay seated at the dining table, Ethan nowhere in sight. She looked up with a sly smile. "Rachel, you're home early," she said, her voice tinged with mock surprise. Before I could respond, she added, "I was hoping we could talk." I dropped my bag, feeling the tension coil in my stomach. "What's there to talk about, Lindsay?" She leaned back, folding her arms. "I need money," she said bluntly. "A lot of it. I have debts that won't go away on their own." I stared at her, disbelief and rage mingling. "How much are you talking about?" 10,000 should do, she replied, her tone casual. "I promise I'll pay you back once I'm on my feet." "No way," I said, shaking my head. "That's out of the question." Lindsay's face hardened. "Ethan will do it if you won't," she said, eyes narrowing. "And what makes you think he'll go behind my back?" I challenged. She shrugged. "You'd be surprised what a brother would do for his sister." At that moment, Ethan walked in, holding groceries. He looked between us, sensing the hostility. "What's going on?" "Lindsay wants $10,000, I said, not taking my eyes off her. Ethan's face went pale. "That's a lot of money, Linz." "I need it, Ethan. Desperately," Lindsay pleaded, turning her gaze on him with those manipulative eyes. "Would you really leave me stranded?" "Ethan, we can't. This has to stop," I said firmly. "We'll figure something out, Lindsay," he told her, avoiding my gaze. I felt a wave of fury. "Are you seriously considering this?" Lindsay turned to me, her voice dripping with venom. "You don't control him, Rachel." I grabbed my coat. "We'll talk about this later, Ethan. I need some air." I stormed out, my mind racing. As I walked, I knew something had to change. Lindsay was tearing us apart, and Ethan was blind to it. Later, Ethan and I confronted each other in the kitchen. "We can't keep going like this," I said, my voice raw. "She needs to leave." "Rachel, she's my sister," Ethan shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "I can't just abandon her." "Then maybe it's time to choose," I said quietly. "Her or us?" His eyes flashed with pain and indecision. "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious, Ethan. She's destroying our marriage." That night, I began digging into Lindsay's past. I called a friend who worked in finance, asking for any information on Lindsay's dealings. The results were shocking. Lindsay had been involved in several financial scams, always slipping away before being caught. Armed with this evidence, I knew I had to confront Ethan. As we sat down the following evening, I laid out what I'd found. "I don't believe it," he said, shaking his head. "Lindsay wouldn't do this." "There's more," I pressed. "She's been manipulating you for years. Look at the pattern." Ethan looked at the papers, his face crumbling. "This can't be true." "It is," I said gently. "You need to see her for who she really is." Torn between his loyalty to his sister and the undeniable evidence before him, Ethan looked lost. "What do we do?" "We need to confront her," I said. "She can't stay here." Ethan nodded slowly, the weight of the truth settling in. We walked to the living room together, ready to face Lindsay and expose her deceit. This confrontation would be the turning point, one way or another. Ethan and I entered the living room, ready for the confrontation. Lindsay was scrolling through her phone, completely unaware of the storm about to crash down on her. "Lindsay, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady. Lindsay looked up, an eyebrow raised. "What's this about?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Rachel found something out. We need to discuss it." "About what?" she asked, her face an image of manufactured innocence. I stepped forward, handing her the documents. "Your financial history, the scams, the lies." Her eyes flicked over the pages. For a moment, her mask slipped, and fear flashed across her face. But she quickly recovered. "This is a misunderstanding. I can explain." "Enough, Lindsay," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "I've been defending you, but these facts don't lie." "You're really going to believe her over me?" Lindsay shot back, eyes narrowing. "Your own sister?" Ethan's face contorted with pain. "Why, Lindsay? Why did you do this? She dropped the documents and stood up, anger radiating from her. What choice did I have? You wouldn't understand. You've always had everything handed to you. That's not true, Ethan said, shaking his head. Lindsay's laugh was cold. Isn't it? Mom and Dad doted on you while I was left picking up the pieces. You owe me, Ethan. You owe me for all those years. No, Ethan said, with a newfound strength. I owe you nothing for your deceit. I stepped in. It's time for you to leave, Lindsay. You've overstayed your welcome and soured our home. You think you're so perfect, Lindsay spat, turning her fury on me. This isn't over. I held her gaze. Yes, it is. Pack your bags and leave. Ethan stood beside me, his resolve now hardened. She's right. It's time to go. Lindsay looked between us, realizing she had lost. She grabbed her bag, stuffing her belongings inside. You'll regret this, both of you, she said, her voice full of venom. We'll survive, Ethan replied, his voice steady. As she walked out the door, Lindsay turned one last time, her eyes flashing with hatred. I'll be back, she promised. Shh. Just go, I said, shutting the door behind her. The house felt lighter immediately, but the damage lingered in the air. Ethan slumped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. How did it go so wrong? I sat beside him, placing a hand on his back. We'll get through this, I said softly. We'll rebuild. He looked up, eyes filled with remorse. I should have seen it. I'm so sorry, Rachel. We both missed the signs, I acknowledged, but now we move forward. The next days were difficult. We had to confront the fallout of Lindsay's stay and the rift it had caused. Ethan and I avoided deep conversations, focusing on mundane tasks and routines. One morning, as we sat in silence over breakfast, Ethan spoke up. I think we need help. Counseling, maybe. I looked at him, recognizing the sincerity in his eyes. I agree, I said. We can't heal this alone. Taking his hand, we made the decision to seek professional help. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but we were committed to finding our way back to each other, repairing what Lindsay had tried to destroy. The therapist's office was a neutral haven, beige walls and soft lighting, creating a calming atmosphere. Dr. Sandra Green, our therapist, was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a steady demeanor. Ethan and I sat on the couch, feet almost touching but not quite. So what brings you both here today? Dr. Green asked, looking between us. Ethan took a deep breath. We need help. My sister Lindsay has caused a lot of turmoil in our marriage. We need to find a way to heal. Dr. Green nodded. Tell me about Lindsay and what happened. I shared the events of the past few weeks, from Lindsay's arrival to the discovery of her deceit. Dr. Green listened intently, making notes occasionally. When I finished, Ethan added, I feel guilty. I let her manipulate me, and it nearly ruined us. Dr. Green put down her pen. Let's focus on rebuilding trust. It's important to address the emotions you're both feeling. Through therapy sessions, we worked on our communication. We learned to express our feelings without anger and to listen without judgment. It was grueling, but I began to see glimpses of the bond we once had. One evening, after a particularly challenging session, Ethan and I sat in the living room, a comfortable silence between us. Thank you for sticking with this, he said quietly. I'm committed to us, Ethan. We can get through this, I replied, squeezing his hand. As the weeks passed, I found myself slowly letting go of the resentment I held towards Lindsay. However, one day, a phone call shattered our fragile peace. Ethan answered and immediately went pale. Lindsay, what do you want? He asked, his voice strained. I could hear her voice shrill and demanding through the phone. I need help, Ethan. I'm in trouble. Serious trouble. Ethan looked at me, conflicted. I shook my head firmly. No, Ethan. We can't go through this again. You heard Rachel. You can't drag us down anymore, he said into the phone. You can't do this to me, Lindsay screamed. I'm your sister. Lindsay, you need to sort out your own life. We're done, Ethan said, ending the call. He looked at me, anguish etched on his face. I feel terrible, but I know it's for the best. You did the right thing, I said, embracing him. She needs to learn to stand on her own. Days turned into weeks, and slowly our lives returned to a semblance of normal. Then, one evening, we received another call, this time from Ethan's old friend, Mark. Ethan, I hate to be the one to tell you, but Lindsay is in bad shape. She got mixed up with some dangerous people. Ethan's face went white. What do you mean? He asked, his voice trembling. She's been trying to con people, and it backfired badly. She's looking for help, but honestly, I don't know how much anyone can do now. Ethan hung up the phone, sitting down heavily. This is what I was afraid of. I sat next to him. It's harsh, but Lindsay's choices led her here. We learned that Lindsay had been arrested, seeking help too late, entangled in a mess of her own making. Ethan and I watched, both saddened and relieved. As we continued our therapy, Dr. Green helped us focus on moving forward. You can't change the past, she said, but you can decide how it shapes your future. Ethan and I took her words to heart. We worked harder on our relationship, setting clear boundaries and learning to trust again. It wasn't easy, but with each passing day, we grew stronger. While Lindsay's downfall was tragic, it became a catalyst for understanding and growth in our marriage. Together, we faced the shadows of betrayal and began crafting a new chapter, one built on the lessons we'd learned and the resilience we discovered within ourselves. Ethan and I walked into Dr. Green's office for what felt like the 100th time. Today felt different. There was a heaviness, the knowledge that we were on the brink of a major decision. Rachel, Ethan, how are you both? Dr. Green asked, her warm smile suggesting she already knew the complexity of our feelings. Confused, conflicted, I admitted, but we're here to figure it out. Ethan nodded. We need clarity. Dr. Green put her pen down. Let's talk about what you need from each other moving forward. I took a deep breath. I need to feel safe in our relationship, Ethan. No more surprises, no more manipulations from outside influences. Ethan reached for my hand. And I need to know you're with me, Rachel, through thick and thin. I squeezed his hand. Always, if it means we can rebuild trust. Dr. Green nodded approvingly. It sounds like you're ready to make some difficult choices. What about Lindsay's influence? This was the moment. I turned to Ethan. Lindsay can't be a part of our lives if we're going to heal. She needs to seek professional help. Ethan swallowed hard. He looked at me, anguish clear on his face, but eventually nodded. It's what we have to do. That evening, back at home, Ethan made the call. It was short and definitive. Lindsay, this is how it has to be. You need to get professional help. We can't be involved anymore. I watched him hang up, feeling both relief and sorrow. I hope she gets the help she needs, Ethan said wearily, sinking into the couch. We did everything we could, I reassured him. As the days turned into weeks, we focused on healing. Every morning, I would catch Ethan looking reflective, but he would also smile more easily. One Saturday morning, Ethan suggested, let's go for a walk, just the two of us. We walked hand in hand through a nearby park, the crisp autumn air invigorating us. I missed this, I admitted. Me too, Ethan said, squeezing my hand. We'll make new memories, Rachel, better ones. Our walks became a ritual, a way to reconnect and reaffirm our commitment to each other. One afternoon, we decided to visit Jamie, my close friend and confidant, who had been supportive through this ordeal. Come in, you guys. Jamie greeted us warmly, leading us into her cozy living room. How are things? She asked, genuine concern in her eyes. We're taking it one day at a time, I said honestly. Jamie gave a knowing nod. You've both been through the ringer. It's good to see you're working on it. We spent the afternoon talking, laughing, and sharing stories. It was a relief to be with friends who supported our journey. Later, when we were home, Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with determination. I want us to keep growing, Rachel. No more shadows. Agreed, I said, feeling the weight of his words. No more shadows. We continued our sessions with Dr. Green, each one bringing us closer and helping us rebuild. We learned to trust again, not just in each other, but in our future. Eventually, we felt strong enough to talk about the next steps. We should consider renewing our vows, Ethan suggested one day. A fresh start. I smiled at the idea. I think that's a wonderful idea. As we stood in front of a small group of friends and family, reaffirming our commitment, I felt the weight lift completely. We had faced betrayal, confronted our deepest fears, and come out stronger. To new beginnings we toasted, clinking our glasses together. In that moment, I knew that the shadows of betrayal had finally lifted, giving way to the bright promise of a future we would build together, free from the darkness of the past. The fresh start Ethan and I had hoped for was beginning to take shape. We focused on our healing, attending couples therapy regularly, and working on our communication. Each passing day brought us a little closer. One afternoon, as we were heading to our therapy session, Ethan's phone rang. It was his old friend, Mark, again. Ethan answered, his face growing tense as he listened. "What's going on?" I asked after he ended the call. "Lindsay's in deeper trouble," Ethan said, his voice heavy. "She tried to con someone, and they didn't take it well. She's in real danger, Rachel." I felt a pang of anger mixed with pity. "What are we supposed to do about it?" Ethan sighed. "I don't know, but we can't go back to that chaos. She needs to face the consequences." We went through our therapy session, trying to stay focused, but I could see the worry etched on Ethan's face. Dr. Green noticed it too. "Ethan, what's troubling you today?" she asked gently. "Lindsay's in trouble again," he admitted. "I feel guilty for cutting her off, but I also know we can't help her anymore." Dr. Green nodded empathetically. "It's natural to feel conflicted, but remember why you made that decision. You need to protect your own well-being." After the session, we walked in silence, each lost in our thoughts. "Do you think she'll ever change?" Ethan asked suddenly. "I hope so, for her sake," I replied, squeezing his hand. "But we've done all we can." A few days later, we received a call from the local police. Lindsay had been arrested again, this time for fraud. I watched as Ethan took the call, his face a mask of pain and resignation. "Thank you, officer," he said before hanging up. "Lindsay's being held on serious charges." I reached out, holding his hand. "We have to let her face the music, Ethan." "I know," he said, tears welling up, "but it hurts." Time passed, and Lindsay's troubles remained a distant shadow. Ethan and I continued to strengthen our bond, finding joy in the simple things we once took for granted. We decided to attend a couples retreat recommended by Dr. Green. "Welcome, everyone," the retreat facilitator greeted us warmly. "This weekend is about reconnecting, rebuilding trust, and finding joy in your partnership." We participated in exercises designed to foster communication and understanding. One activity involved writing letters to each other, expressing our hopes and fears. "Dear Ethan," I began, pouring my heart onto the paper. "I admire your strength and your willingness to fight for us. We've faced so much, but I believe in our future together." When we exchanged letters, I saw tears in Ethan's eyes. "Rachel, your words mean everything to me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your letter is beautiful, Ethan," I replied, my own tears falling. By the end of the retreat, we felt more connected than ever. We stood on a hill overlooking a serene lake, holding hands as the sun set. "This feels like a new beginning," Ethan said softly. "It does," I agreed. "We've come so far." Back home, the weeks turned into months, our relationship growing stronger. We began planning future projects together, talking about travel, hobbies, and even starting a family someday. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the stars, Ethan turned to me. "I never thought we'd make it through all of this," he admitted. "But we did," I said, smiling, "and we're stronger for it." We received one final piece of news about Lindsay. She had finally checked herself into a rehabilitation program, facing the reality of her actions. "Maybe this is the turning point she needs," Ethan said hopefully. "Let's hope so," I replied, grateful for the closure. With each day, we moved forward, creating a future built on resilience and love. Together, we had weathered the storm, emerging stronger and ready for whatever lay ahead. As we looked toward the horizon, we knew that the shadows of betrayal had finally faded, leaving only the bright promise of new beginnings.
Huh? Could it be? I was checking my phone at the OBGYN clinic when someone suddenly spoke to me. I looked up and there was my husband's colleague, whom I had met before. Like me, she happily patted her big belly and said, "You're having your second child already. Seeing your belly, I wonder if our due dates are the same." Second child? "I admire you for being so quick. Your older child is only about 6 months old, right?" I was confused because I didn't understand what she meant. Truth be told, this child I'm pregnant with is indeed my first. "Well, this is only my first." Her expression froze when I replied. It felt odd. I immediately questioned her about it. What she revealed afterwards was an unexpected truth. "My name is Erica Adams, and I'm 28 years old. I work as an apparel salesperson in a department store. My husband, Christopher, and I have been married for only half a year. We met not at work, but at what you might call a blind date. Christopher works for a typical average company, and his income and benefits are about average too. It's a little tough to live on his income alone, but I also work full-time, so that's not an issue. I would like to have children someday, but if I were to give birth, I would have to take time off work, even if I didn't want to. To be prepared for whenever that time comes, I have been diligently saving money in my daily life. On the other hand, my husband Christopher isn't that cooperative. And whenever I try to save money by making boxed lunches, he flat out refuses.
Huh? Boxed lunches? I can go to different restaurants with everyone from the office for lunch, you know?
But didn't we agree to save money together? To do that, we have to start with what we can.
It's fine to save money, but where to cut back depends on individual values, right? I want to go out to eat with everyone for lunch.
So, Christopher, where do you plan to cut back?
Huh? Well, various things. I'll do my best in my own way, so isn't that good enough?
Huh. Okay. Even though we've only been married for half a year, this is the state of our relationship. Although we got married because we loved each other, the discrepancy in our values was bothering me. And what's more, even though a year has passed since we got married, we still don't have any children. It's not that I didn't want them. I simply thought it wasn't the right time to have children yet. Moreover, over these past 6 months, my husband has been spending money as he pleases without particularly focusing on saving. He doesn't hesitate to spend money on lunch expenses, gaming purchases, or sneakers he desires. His monthly income isn't particularly high, so he ends up spending almost all of it within a month. From the beginning of our marriage, we've been contributing $1,000 each per month towards living expenses. At some point, my husband started saying,
I like to reduce it, even if it's just by a little.
Just recently, he made such a request to me.
Sorry, Erica. Can you reduce my share of this month's living expenses a bit?
Huh? Why? Didn't we already cut it by $100 last month?
Yeah, but you see, things have been a bit, tough.
Tough? That's why I suggested it, didn't I? I thought it'd be better to make boxed lunches to save even a little money.
That's not what I meant. Anyway, just reduce it by $100, okay?
Okay, but make sure to manage it properly next month. Looking back, I feel like my husband's been coming home later and later over this past half year. There have been more days when he's had to work on weekends, leaving the house empty. Despite overtime clearly increasing, why is it that our living expenses aren't enough? We must be spending it on something, but whenever I ask, he just evades the question. I really need to do something about this situation, I thought one day, and then it was announced that there would be a barbecue at my husband's company. It was mentioned that employees' families could also attend, so when my husband invited me, I decided to join. While his company has a high proportion of male employees, it's not awkward at all. As I sipped tea on the sidelines, a stranger approached me. Nice to meet you. You're Miss Adams, right? Yes, that's right. Are you by any chance my husband's colleague? I'm Lisa Kerr, and I work in the same department. I heard you and I are the same age, so I naturally felt a sense of closeness. Is that so? America Adams. My husband always speaks highly of you. Oh, that's great to hear. I hardly have anyone of the same age around. Indeed, there seems to be a lot of younger new hires and older individuals, and there aren't many people around our age, right? Most of the women I spoke with who looked young were temporary workers. The older women, on the other hand, are mostly part-timers. There are probably really few full-time female employees. That is probably why someone as close in age as I am was so valuable to Lisa. We had a lively conversation, and I was able to forget about the usual frustrations with my husband and enjoy a good time after a long time. When I got home, I approached my husband. Christopher, thanks for inviting me today. It was so much fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. You seemed to be chatting happily with Lisa, huh?
Oh yeah, Lisa is really nice and we hit it off.
Is that so? Lisa is good at her job and probably the most powerful female employee.
Wow, she must be really impressive. She did seem like someone who could handle the job well.
And her memory is amazing too. She remembers almost every company we've dealt with and what she's been in charge of.
In my opinion, Lisa doesn't seem like the type to be deeply engrossed in her work, despite her outward appearance. It might be rude to say, but this just proves that appearances can be deceiving. I can't help but admire someone who not only has such a glamorous appearance, but also excels at work and has a good memory. Inspired by her, I began to immerse myself in work from the next day onwards. I tried to do everything myself and support others as well. However, on the other hand, the misunderstandings with my husband grew. My company hardly ever has overtime, no matter how busy it gets. But lately, I feel like my husband's been coming home even later than before. Up until now, he used to come home by 10 p.m. at the latest, but recently it's become normal for him to return after midnight. With more overtime on weekends as well, I decided to ask about the reason for this one day. Hey, Christopher, lately you've been coming home really late. Is work that busy?
Huh? Yeah. There are a lot of new tasks and stuff starting up.
But still, past midnight? Isn't that way too late? Is that really okay with the company?
It's fine, really. It's just for now, and it's not like this all the time. Anyway, Erica, there's nothing for you to worry about.
Well, if you say so. His vague responses left me feeling uneasy, but pressing him now probably won't get me the answers I want. For now, I decided to observe his behavior a little longer. However, even after 6 months, my husband's overtime remained unchanged, and the opportunities for us to meet as a couple had also become fewer. We no longer went on dates like we used to on weekends, and I found myself going out alone more often. On this particular day, since my husband was working on a weekend, I went out alone. I took a train in the opposite direction of my usual route and decided to visit the newly opened shopping mall. Being freshly opened, it was incredibly crowded. As I strolled around looking at various shops, I heard a familiar voice from behind.
Hey, over here. Come this way.
It was unmistakably my husband's voice. I instinctively turned around, but with so many people around, I couldn't quite catch sight of my husband. Though I caught a glimpse of what seemed to be his figure, I lost sight of him amidst the crowd. What's going on? That was definitely Christopher's voice just now. If it wasn't him, who called out to me? Then who? That evening, I decided to wait for my husband to return home and ask him about it. As soon as he arrived home after 11 p.m., I broached the project. Hey, Christopher, where were you today?
Huh? What are you talking about? It's a holiday, so obviously I was at work, right?
I went to the newly opened shopping mall and heard your voice, Christopher.
Huh? The newly opened shopping mall in the neighboring city?
You knew about it?
Well, it was rumored, but I was at work, so I didn't go to a place like that.
My husband was clearly flustered, insisting on his weekend work schedule. Considering his behavior was clearly different from usual, I became convinced Christopher was lying. Since then, I began to closely monitor his actions. Just then, I began to feel nauseous all the time. Why am I suddenly feeling like this? Did I eat something weird? The feeling of nausea, accompanied by physical discomfort, lasted for about a week. Summoning my courage to go to the hospital, I was shocked to find out I was pregnant. Due to our concerns about our savings, we have been meticulous about contraception. But as I experienced pregnancy firsthand, my anxiety gradually faded, replaced by a feeling of happiness. When I told my husband about the pregnancy, he was overjoyed.
Huh? Pregnant? Seriously?
but there seemed to be a hint of tension in his expression. Apparently, I had a predisposition to severe morning sickness. I had intended to keep a close eye on my husband's suspicious behavior, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. 6 months later, I safely entered the stable period of my pregnancy, and my morning sickness finally began to ease. Until now, the severity of my morning sickness had required my husband to accompany me to the hospital, but that was no longer necessary. I was able to go to the OBGYN by myself, and while waiting to see the doctor at the reception desk, I routinely browsed baby products on my smartphone. It was at this time that I was suddenly approached at the hospital.
Huh? Could it be?
When I looked up, there was the familiar figure of my husband's colleague, Lisa. She joyfully stroked her belly, which was about as big as mine, and said,
"You're having your second child already. Seeing your belly, I wonder if our due dates are the same."
Lisa?
It's quite challenging to be pregnant with a second child when the first one is still small, isn't it? And by the way, were you pregnant with your first child during the barbecue we had before?
Second child?
You're admirable for being so quick. Isn't your older child about 6 months old?
I was confused as to what Lisa meant. Truth be told, this child I'm pregnant with is indeed my first. With a mix of confusion and fear, I cautiously spoke up. "Lisa, this child is actually my first."
"Huh? Your first? This child?"
"Yes, this child is my first." As I answered, her expression froze. Something felt off. Trusting my instincts, I immediately confronted her. "Hey, Lisa, why did you think this child was my second?"
Well, that's...
"Tell me, I can't ignore this."
Erica,
She looked awkward throughout, avoiding eye contact. But then, as if she had made up her mind, she looked at me and slowly spoke.
Actually, I saw him at the park a little while ago. Christopher was walking around holding a small child."
"Huh? Christopher was?"
The child didn't seem able to walk alone yet, and size-wise, it seemed like it had been about 6 months since birth. I didn't see you around, so I just assumed Christopher was taking a walk alone."
Did you hear this from my husband?"
At that time, I only caught a glimpse from the car, and I was suffering from severe morning sickness, so I had already quit my job. I couldn't inquire further about the truth. I'm sorry for saying weird things.
"No. Thank you for telling me." Lisa left with an indescribable look on her face. Meanwhile, I was filled with boiling anger. I see. So that's what happened. The overtime increased because he was cheating, right? Moreover, he has a child with the other person. I absolutely can't forgive this. After finishing the checkup, I approached my husband, who was watching TV in the living room. Without delay, I immediately confronted him after he greeted me with, "Welcome home." "Hey, Christopher, I ran into Lisa at the hospital earlier."
"Huh? Lisa? She's been having terrible morning sickness and quit. I've been worried about her."
"I heard something from Lisa. She told me you're having your second child already."
"Huh?
Christopher? You know something, right?" Christopher's face drained of color, and I sensed his agitation. He began to stammer desperately, his eyes shifting.
What are you talking about? A second child? Maybe Lisa just got the wrong idea. Haha.
Right, that's what I thought too. But she saw you herself. You holding the baby.
That's impossible. I don't have a kid.
I found it strange. Your overtime hasn't increased your salary, and you've been working weekends more often. Lisa mentioned it. There's no weekend work at his company, she said.
Ugh.
Yes, I was listening to another important story from Lisa. It was about overtime and working on weekends. According to her, my husband's company only does overtime until 8 p.m. at the latest. She said there had never been any weekend work. So no matter how much overtime he does, it's strange for my husband to come home after midnight. Even on the days he said he was working weekends, he was actually going somewhere else, not to the office. Hey, where were you and what were you doing? When I questioned my husband, he started trembling uncontrollably. Perhaps realizing he couldn't keep hiding, he slowly opened his mouth while looking down.
At her place.
Her? How long have you been dating her?
Well, she's actually my ex-girlfriend. I got her pregnant, so I've been visiting her regularly.
Your ex-girlfriend? So what about the child? Is it yours?
Yes.
I felt alternating waves of anger, frustration, and disbelief at myself for choosing such a pathetic man.
I'm willing to break up. Please, forgive me.
My husband tried to dismiss everything with such words, but I shouted at him. Don't you dare joke about this. What do you think you're doing to our child? You talk about breaking up so casually, but because of you, the child from your affair won't have a father. And yet you're all about self-preservation. You're too selfish.
No, it's not like that. I just want to prioritize you, Erica. It was just a momentary lapse with my ex-girlfriend. It just happened in the heat of the moment.
What? It's disgusting to hear that now. After you've been doing whatever you wanted all this time, now you're trying to act like a saint? I refuse to let a jerk like you become the father of this child. It's utterly shameless of you to impregnate both me and your ex-girlfriend at the same time.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. Please forgive me.
Shut up, you scumbag. Don't ever come near me again. Rot in hell, you piece of garbage. Sorry, but you'll be paying alimony and child support, got it? Be prepared for that, okay? My words left Christopher crestfallen. Ignoring him, I packed my things and left for good. Without a word, he watched me leave. Afterwards, with the help of my parents and in-laws, I divorced Christopher. A few days later, I hired a lawyer and sued both him and his mistress for damages. I made sure to demand child support from him for our unborn child. For him, already struggling financially, this was a significant blow. He resorted to borrowing money to cover the expenses. Eventually, news of his affair leaked to his company, resulting in his transfer to a subsidiary, another reason due to anger from the higher-ups. Now abandoned by his mistress as well, he works tirelessly to pay child support to me. On my end, I'm approaching my due date. It's a scary thought as it's my first time, but the anticipation of meeting my child soon brings a smile to my face. The absence of a father may cause this child to grieve in the future, but I will protect this child because I am his mother. We'll meet soon, just wait for me. With these words, I gently pat my swollen belly. As long as I have this child, everything will be alright. I vowed to ensure the happiness of both me and my child.
Oh, welcome back home. Oh, did my husband Jeff not hear what I said? Welcome home. Dinner's ready. No matter how much I talk to Jeff, he won't respond back to me. Jeff looks a little moody as he sits down to the dinner table while watching the TV. I really don't know what to do, so I just began to put the dinner plates in front of Jeff. My name is Jade. I am 32 years old. I am currently a sales associate in a cosmetics department. I work in a store of my favorite cosmetics brand, and I am very happy about that. And I feel really happy every day that I get to work in an environment like that. I have a husband named Jeff, and we have now been married for 3 years. But we have been dating for 5 years and moved in together right after we started dating. So, we have been living together for 8 years now. My husband was always been very kind and caring to me. And he was a good boyfriend and has been a good husband since we got married. I am the one who is good at house chores. But Jeff helps me with what he can and even cooks for me when I am busy with work. I thought to myself that I had found a really kind, good man until recently. My husband and I met at a same company. I joined the company later on, and my husband had been working at the company already, as he was 2 years older than me. At the time, My husband was my mentor, and I felt like he was a mentor whom I admired for his work ethics and his skills. Little by little, I began to learn my job, and I was trusted by my bosses to do various tasks. Then, I was assigned to the same team as my husband in a new project at the company, and we became even closer. Around that time, my husband and I often went out for drinks and talked a lot about work. We became closer and closer to each other, so we began to date. My husband and I shared a common interest in music, and our favorite bands were quite similar. Because of this, we also went on dates together, going to live concerts and festivals. Since we worked at the same place, we understood each other's work and how busy we were. And depending on the time, we were able to support each other and understand how we felt and how we thought on some things. For a while, we were like that, enjoying our time together and being called the perfect couple at work. But then I began to think about what kind of work I really wanted to do. Of course, I enjoyed my job at that time, and I was blessed with good people at work. But I wanted to be more involved in something I really liked. This desire grew stronger, and I made the decision to quit the company and talk to Jeff about it. He supported my dream and suggested saying,
"It's a new beginning for you, Jade, so why don't you leave the company because we're getting married?"
And after that, he proposed and said,
"Let's get married."
I was surprised, but I thought it was very like Jeff and accepted his proposal. I left the company and entered the cosmetics industry, which I had always been interested in. My job started as a sales clerk in a cosmetics department, but I was really happy. I could be involved with my favorite cosmetic brand every day, and more importantly, I could learn more by actually using various products. Even as a salesperson, there's a lot to learn, and the job is very rewarding. And since I was always in a happy mood, I was excitedly telling my husband, "We had this customer today," or "My senior gave me a compliment," and so on. My husband would smile and say,
"I see,"
or
"That's good for you."
And I know I've already said this, but I was really happy. Then one day, after working as a salesperson for about 3 years, I was suddenly called in by my manager. I remember going to the head office extremely nervous because I had no idea why I was called in for. Did I do something wrong, or did I do something to cause unbelievable damage to the company? I went over to my manager with a scared look on my face, and seeing me, he said,
"What are you scared of?"
and laughed. Well, why did you call me in for?"
"I want you to join our product planning and development department at the head office."
"What?" I couldn't close my mouth as I was surprised to this unexpected turn of events. "I'm going to be a part of the head office?" My manager then said,
"I heard about you from the store manager. He told me that you'd be able to make great use of your abilities in a department that would form the core of the company."
I felt like I was in heaven. It was a dream come true to be promoted in a job I loved. I immediately reported this to my husband when I got home. Hearing this, Jeff had praised me, saying,
"Wow, that's great."
I was going to be working at the head office, and my salary would be much higher than when I was a sales associate. I couldn't help but be very pleased about what was happening. And although the work in the new department was difficult, because there was so much to learn, it was still very rewarding. It really moved me to see the actual production of the cosmetics up close at the factory for the first time. And since there was a lot of work to be done at the head office, I had to do overtime every day. I usually returned home around 9 p.m. I'm so sorry. I got home late again. I bought some side dishes from the store, so I'll just make something simple.
Jade, haven't you been neglecting your house chores lately?
Sorry?
If I have to eat late like this every night, my stomach can't really handle that.
I'm sorry. It was the first time that my husband had ever said such a thing to me, so I had apologized to him without really thinking deeply about it. It was true that, until now, I had always arrived home earlier than my husband, and he often came home when I was still cooking dinner for him. And the dinner would be ready just when my husband changed his clothes and ready to relax. But circumstances change, and now I want to put work first. I felt that he should have been a little more understanding, but he had supported me when I decided to change jobs. But after that, my husband's attitude toward me gradually became more and more harsh.
This dish again?
What? But you told me that you like it, Jeff.
You should think about cooking different types of dishes, you know. If it's like this, I'd rather go to McDonald's.
What? But I made it just for you.
And lately, you're not cleaning around really well. It seems like you changed, huh? All you do is work, and now you don't really care about what's going on in the house.
No, that's not true. I'm trying to do my best both at work and at home.
Then, do better with your house chores.
No way. Then you're the one who should help with the house chores more, Jeff. You've been coming home earlier than me lately anyways. Then my husband widened his eyes and became angry.
Huh? You better not get carried away. What? Do you think like you're a big shot or something? You're being arrogant, you know.
Jeff?
Wow, you really pissed me off. Who the hell do you think you are?
Excuse me? I had never seen my husband lose his temper like this before, so I was really confused and could only apologize and say, I'm sorry. That was the end of our conversation that day, and we went to bed separately. My husband slept on the couch. As I was alone in the bedroom, I reflected on the fact that I had indeed been working so much and neglecting my husband and the house chores. The next morning, I made lunch for my husband and myself for the first time in a long time. My husband looked surprised when he saw the lunch, and he said,
"Thanks,"
and took his lunch to work. I was a little relieved at this point, thinking that we had made up, although still a little awkward. And since work was not that busy that day, I left the office without doing any overtime. I went to the supermarket to buy ingredients to cook something really nice for the first time in a while. I cooked one dish after another, hoping to surprise my husband. Then, my husband came home just in time. Oh, welcome back home. Oh, did my husband Jeff not hear what I said? Welcome home, dinner's ready. No matter how much I talk to Jeff, he won't respond back to me. Jeff looks a little moody as he sits down to the dinner table while watching the TV. I really didn't know what to do, so I just began to put the dinner plates in front of Jeff. But my husband just eats his food silently without saying anything. He doesn't even look at me, and he just keeps on watching the TV. Today I had some time to cook, so I tried my best. What do you think? I asked Jeff that, but he didn't say anything. Well, I guess he's just ignoring me. And I guess that he didn't forgive me at all for yesterday, huh? Still, what Jeff is doing is a bit too much. Feeling sad, I began to eat the food I cooked while facing Jeff, who was looking the other way. It's so delicious. I was so sad that Jeff didn't respond to anything. My husband kept ignoring me and I didn't know what to do, so all I could do was also be silent. After that, my husband continued to ignore me, and to my surprise, he ignored me for a whole week. Is this normal for Jeff to ignore me this much, no matter how much my comments annoyed him? I was disappointed that my husband was such a small man, and I was getting used to being ignored. If he doesn't say anything, then I'm free to do as I please. I started working overtime more than usual, and through this process, I started going out for drinks with other people at work. I stopped cooking dinner or making lunch for my husband. Then one day, for the first time in a long time, I was invited out for a drink by a good friend, Steve, who used to work with me. My old workplace was, yes, my husband's workplace. Steve still works at the same department as my husband. I thought it was a good opportunity and asked him how Jeff was doing recently at work. Then, Steve would awkwardly say,
Oh, he's frustrated because he couldn't get promoted again.
If I remember correctly, a month ago was that time of the year when you get promoted or not in that company. My husband didn't say anything about it, and I had forgotten all about it because I had been assigned to work at the head office at that time in the first place. I then began to tell Steve about my current situation at home. Steve then said,
That's tough.
and sympathized with me and said,
Oh, by the way,
and began to talk as if he remembered something.
after you quit the company, I remember Jeff saying, After all, I'll be the man of the family finances, so Jay's just fine doing what she likes as a hobby.
What? I was surprised to hear that. At first glance, this might be taken as the statement of a man who seems dependable, but it's not. It was just a comment made by an extremely arrogant man. In other words, my husband had always looked down on me and didn't care what I did because I was always looked down by him. But now that I had been promoted and was earning a little more than what Jeff earned currently, he became jealous and started acting that way. My feelings for my husband suddenly disappeared just like that. I had no idea Jeff was such a small man. I no longer cared about my marriage to my husband and immediately started looking for a place to live in. My husband seemed to have assumed that I would snap out of it, and he was beginning to grow impatient with my attitude and ignoring him back. I think I was really irritated, seeing my husband after knowing what I had found out from Steve. Then one day, my husband said,
You know,
and began speaking to me. But I was just about to call the real estate agent at that time, so I coldly replied, I'm busy, so shut up. My husband said,
What?
in a small voice and looked frightened. I ignored him and called the real estate agent. Yes, I really like that room. Yes, please, I'll go ahead with that contract. When I hung up the phone, my husband asked with a worried look on his face, saying,
What room are you talking about?
I had no choice but to talk to him. I'm going to leave this house.
Excuse me?
I'm sick and tired of being controlled around by your petty pride. So, let's just get a divorce. Saying this, I held out the divorce papers at my husband.
What? Why divorce?
Don't you even know what you did? It's because you were jealous of my career and acted really immature by continuing to ignore me. It's too late for you to talk to me now. I don't want to be with a small, arrogant person like you anymore. Now, sign the divorce papers. Otherwise, I'll hire a lawyer." Seeing me very angry like this, Jeff began to sign the divorce papers as he trembled. And like that, our divorce was finalized. After the divorce, my ex-husband became even more moody and began to pick on the colleagues who were much younger than him more harshly, which was regarded as power harassment within the company, and he was sent to a local branch as a demotion. On the other hand, now that I am free from the stress of my ex-husband, I am able to take on my work with a more refreshed mind, and I feel very happy every day. Love is good for a while, so now I want to devote myself more and more to my work and continue to learn about the cosmetics. Right now, my dream is to sell cosmetics which I produced by myself at this company. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
My husband and his sister treats me horribly. Once we began to live together at in-laws' house, and as a result...
Hey, why is this meal so bland and boring?
You really are useless, Daisy. I mean, Daisy, if you're that useless, then you're just a parasite.
No, you're right. I'm sure she's a parasite.
While saying these horrible things to me, my husband Lance and his sister Mia scoffed at me. Who in the world do you think is doing things around the house and supporting them? I just couldn't take it anymore, and I had enough of how they were treating me terribly. I can't stay any longer at this house with them. I'll show them which one of us is the parasite. My name is Daisy. I am 32 years old and I work at a company. I am currently dating someone. The guy I am dating is Lance, a colleague from the same company who joined the company a little later than me, and it has been almost 2 years since I started dating him. He has always given me the impression of being a bright and likable young man, and I was secretly attracted to him. I heard that Lance had an ex-girlfriend whom he was thinking of marrying before, but they broke up after they were engaged. The reason for breaking off the engagement was that because his ex-girlfriend at the time had been seeing someone else, and after Lance found out that she was cheating on him, he was quite in a shock at that time. He didn't seem to be able to concentrate much on his work, so I used to hear him out a lot at that time. From this, we naturally grew closer, and in the end, Lance confessed his feelings for me and we started dating. Our romantic relationship was going pretty well, and I was beginning to think about marrying him. It had been almost 2 years since we began dating, and we were both at the ideal age to get married. I guess maybe Lance thought the same thing, and he could take the hint since he just recently proposed to me.
Daisy, I want you to marry me.
I was at the height of my happiness when he gave me a ring and proposed to me at a high-end restaurant with a beautiful night view. It was my dream to be proposed like this. You might think it's such a cliche, but to me, it was what I wanted, and I was just happy that maybe he remembered that I had told him about my dream proposal before, even if it was just a coincidence. I was so happy that I immediately accepted his proposal, and we got engaged. After that, we greeted each other's parents, met each of our families, and had a beautiful wedding ceremony. After getting married to Lance, I resigned from my job. I resigned because Lance had asked me to do so.
I want you to be a full-time housewife when we get married.
To be honest, when he first said that, it made me think about it a lot. I loved my job at the time and found it very rewarding. But It's not like I was prioritizing work more, and I wanted to be married to him. So I decided to become a full-time housewife. Once I decided to be a full-time housewife, I had to make sure I did all the house chores properly. I did a lot of cleaning and doing the laundry, and I read a lot of books on cooking and honed my skills. I guess I must have been a perfectionist. I became more and more immersed in doing the house chores and perfecting them by researching how to remove the stains, or how to dry the clothes without having any wrinkles on them, or how to make delicious dishes easily with inexpensive ingredients. I was passionate about the house chores like that, and I was spending my newlywed life happily while having a great relationship with my husband. My husband also seemed satisfied with the fact that I was doing a good job on the house chores. He also enjoys the meals and dishes I cook very much. And 1 year passed in the blink of an eye after we got married. But around this time, I began to feel some negative vibes between Lance and I. It all started when we decided to move in with Lance's parents, Linda and Phil.
My father's legs and back aren't doing so well these days. I'm thinking of moving in with my parents.
What? Moving in together with them? I was surprised to hear Lance's suggestion out of the blue. As for me, I wanted to spend a little more time with Lance as a married couple, but my impression of my parents-in-law was not that bad, and once I heard the situation from Lance, I was worried about my father-in-law, Phil. So I agreed to move in with Lance's parents, and we moved into my in-laws' house right away. Oh, thank you so much for moving in with us, Daisy. It would be a great help now that you're here with us. Please rely on me for anything, okay, Linda? My mother-in-law, Linda, thanked me many times. My father-in-law, Phil, was also apologetic, saying,
I'm really sorry disturbing your newlywed life.
Both Linda and Phil were very kind, and I thought that our life together was going to be fine. Then I saw a woman in pajamas coming down from the second floor.
My God, it's only the morning and what's happening already? You all are being so loud.
Oh, Mia! Long time no see.
Oh, is that you, Lance? It is you, Lance. What's up?
Hehe. From today, I'm going to start living here.
What? Seriously? Yay!
She is my sister-in-law, Mia, who looks really happy seeing her big brother. I first met Mia before my husband and I got married, and she was still a college student at the time. Lance and Mia are 5 years apart, and he and I are 3 years apart, so there is an 8-year age difference between Mia and I. Mia had been studying in England since last year and just came back yesterday. I didn't know the details, but it seems that Mia was living at home and will continue to live there after returning back here. I was surprised because I thought we were only going to live with Lance's parents. And I felt a little uneasy. My husband loves Mia, just a little too much in my opinion, and he's very protective of Mia. When we were dating and after we got married, my husband always talked about Mia at least once a day. At the time, I thought he was a nice man who was very protective of his sister. But after seeing him talk about Mia so many times after we got married, I began to think that he was obsessed with Mia a bit too much. So, when we got married, I was glad that Mia had gone to study in England. But I never thought that we all would end up living together like this. But Mia could be a very nice girl. I had my concerns, but for now I wanted to get along well with Mia and decided to get closer to her. As we all started living together, and after seeing my husband off to work, I proceeded with the house chores. It's really great to have you here, Daisy. You are so quick and efficient, so the house chores gets done really fast. Thank you very much. It's because you teach me in a way that I understand how to do it easily, Linda. While Linda and I were happily chatting and doing house chores together, Mia woke up sleepily right before noon. Oh, good morning, Mia.
Good morning.
You look sleepy. Mia seems to have a hard time in the morning, and she sat on the sofa looking very sleepy. I'll make coffee. As I said that, I made her coffee and gave it to her. Here you go.
What about milk and sugar?
Oh, sorry about that. How many would you like?
One of each, please.
I did as I was told and took a stick of sugar and milk. Then, Mia took it, put it in her coffee, mixed it, and drank it. Then, she started looking at her phone while relaxing on the sofa. I wonder if she doesn't work because she just got back. I mean, did she quit her job when she began to study in England? As Linda went into her room to take care of Phil, I decided to talk to Mia to get to know her more. Mia, was England fun?
Yes, it was really fun.
Mia answers my question while still looking at her phone. Normally, I think it is common sense to stop looking at the phone and concentrate on the conversation. But, oh well, let's put that aside for now. What are you going to do now? What kind of work are you looking for? When I asked her that, Mia instantly made a disgusted face.
Why are you asking me these questions all of a sudden?
What?
What, are you saying that I'm in the way since I'm always at home?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I just simply got curious what you were going to do after studying in England.
But that's got nothing to do with you, Daisy, right?
Well, yes, but I was only curious, which is why I asked. Since we're living together now, I want to get to know you more too.
There's no need for that, okay? This isn't at all necessary, so don't try to have a conversation with me like that, okay?
What? Mia was looking at her phone the whole time while she said that. I was shocked to find out that she had no intention of getting along with me. And yet, Mia would demand saying things like,
Hey Daisy, is my lunch ready yet?
Or even say,
Hurry up and clean my room.
And so on. I was so shocked at her attitude, wondering how could she be so demanding after having behaved like that earlier. Since you're not working anyways, why don't you do it? I am not the one who will easily do whatever Mia tells me to do, especially after how Mia was like to me earlier on. I can't have Mia looking down on me like that. As I said this, Mia widened her eyes and glared at me sharply.
You're terrible. How dare you have an attitude like that to me?
Well, the way you behaved towards me earlier on was also terrible. Don't expect people to be nice to you when you weren't even nice to them in the first place, okay? When I said this, Mia glared at me once again and left the house. She probably went out somewhere to eat. I thought to myself, my goodness, and proceeded to do my chores. But that night, an issue occurred. Welcome home, honey. When I welcomed my husband back home, when he came back home from work, he glared at me with an angry look on his face.
Hey, Daisy! What the hell are you thinking?
Excuse me?
I got a message from Mia, and she was saying that she got bullied and harassed by you, Daisy.
No way. I never bullied or harassed Mia.
I heard that you intentionally didn't cook lunch or clean the room for Mia.
Well, that's because Mia said terrible things to me.
No way! Mia has a really gentle heart. She would never say such terrible things to you.
My husband says this as his face is bright red from anger. Then Mia, who was in the room, came out and jumped into my husband's chest, hugging him, saying something like,
Oh, Lance, she made me feel bad.
You must have felt bad. I'm really sorry, Mia. I'm going to make sure and tell Daisy off and be strict with her.
Strict with me? I was just shocked at how my husband overly loved Mia. And I was just really disappointed that my husband would always take Mia's side whenever I would clash and have an argument with Mia. Then, being spoiled by Lance, Mia got carried away and started demanding a lot of things from me.
Daisy, I want to eat ice cream, so go buy me some. Oh, and I want you to also get this magazine. So, will you just hurry up and go?
Mia would say this to me while lying on the sofa. Mia would completely treat me as if I were her housekeeper because she knew Lance would always take her side whenever something happened between us. I had no choice but to listen to her, but it really bothers me when she makes various demands while I was doing house chores. I mean, to begin with, Mia should go to work since she was in her 20s. But even after a few months had passed since her return, she showed no sign of planning to work. As expected, both Linda and Phil, seeing Mia being like that, said,
I think you've had enough rest, don't you think?
But Mia would say something like this.
Well, it's okay. I don't have to work at all.
And it wouldn't make any sense. When Linda and Phil asked her what she meant, she said,
It's because my brother will take care of me.
Hearing Mia's answer, I butted into the conversation. Oh, wait a minute. Please don't ask Lance for money to support you. We have our life to lead too, you know. When I said this, Mia began to snicker and say this.
What the heck are you talking about? Lance was the one who said this, you know. He said that he would be the one looking after me, so I don't need to work at all.
Hearing what Lance had said to Mia, Linda, Phil, and I were just speechless and in shock. My husband's obsession towards Mia was just too much for me to handle. When I asked my husband about it, he didn't seem offended and admitted to it, saying,
I did tell her that, of course. It's only normal, right?
I don't know if I can be with a person like him anymore. Just as I was thinking this, Linda had suffered a back injury. Apparently, she had injured her back by doing her best and taking care of Phil too much. I got really worried about both Linda and Phil. If I left them alone and divorced my husband, I could just tell that there was no way Mia would be able to take care of them. I mean, Mia doesn't do any house chores and has no intention of taking care of her parents, since it was just a hassle for her. Plus, Lance would only obey to Mia, so I felt that I had to do something about this. So, from then on, I began to take care of Linda and Phil in addition to my daily chores. Both Linda and Phil felt bad that they were putting all the burden on me and told Mia to either take care of them or do the house chores. But Mia would say,
But that's what a married woman does.
It would not listen to her own parents at all. Linda and Phil would apologize to me, saying,
I'm sorry for raising our kids like this and for causing trouble to you because of this.
Oh, you are both not at any fault for this. Now you both should only just think about getting better physically. But taking advantage of the situation, Mia began to use me and demand me things even more. My husband was also not helpful, but instead, he would side with Mia and they both began to treat me terribly.
Hey, why is this meal so bland and boring?
You really are useless, Daisy. You should cook dishes and meals which has a lot of meat and with better taste, since this is just too bland and boring.
Well, I cook these meals and dishes while I think about your parents' health.
What? Are you trying to go against us?
This is ridiculous. You're just a wife who is our slave. I mean, Daisy, if you're that useless, then you're just a parasite.
No, you're right. I'm sure she's a parasite.
While saying these horrible things to me, my husband Lance and his little sister Mia scoffed at me. Even when Linda and Phil get mad at both Lance and Mia for not being kind or cooperative, the two won't stop laughing at me. Who in the world do you think is doing things around the house and supporting them? I just couldn't take it anymore, and I had enough of how they were treating me terribly. I can't stay any longer at this house with them. I'll show them which one of us is the parasite. And 3 weeks later, I packed my bags and left the house. Mia had recently gone to a beauty salon because Lance had spoiled her and given her money for it. Meanwhile, I decided to carry out a plan I had been working on for a little while. After I finished carrying all my belongings, I laid down in a room which I rented all by myself. I am very happy to be able to spend time at my own pace without being required to do so many things like a slave. As I was relaxing around, I received a phone call from my husband that evening.
Hey, where the hell did you go? How come your things and Mom and Dad's things are all gone?
Well, that's because we all left that house.
What did you say? You all left? Where the hell did you guys all go to?
Well, your parents have already given up on you and Mia and decided to go into nursing care. They don't want to see their ungrateful, uncooperative son and daughter anymore, who treated me really badly. Since they didn't want to give you and Mia their inheritance either, they've spent all their savings and moved into a really luxurious nursing care home. I went on a tour with them to that nursing care facility, and it really is a great place. I was relieved to see that they will be able to live a happy and peaceful life away from both of you.
What? Then where the hell are you?
Oh, I borrowed an apartment, all for myself. I have quite a bit of savings, which I had even before I married you. Besides, I was in a much higher position than you at my previous company, so I earned pretty well.
You've got to be kidding. Who's going to do the house chores then if you're gone?
Why don't you just make Mia do that?
But Mia can't even cook. She said that even holding a knife is too scary for her.
Then I guess you'll have to do it. Oh, and I got a message from Phil, and he told me to tell you that they sold the house that you're living in right now, so you both will have to move out soon. If you don't move out and resist, you'll either get evicted or arrested.
What? You're joking, right?
You both have to move out by the end of the month, so that's in 2 days, I guess.
No way!
Also, I'm claiming compensation for the emotional distress you caused me, so please check the contents of the certified letter which I'll be sending to your company.
Why are you even sending it to the office?
Because I have to let everyone in the company know that it's all your fault. It's also a nice reminder to the people at the company that they shouldn't promote you to be a boss. My husband says something which I couldn't hear really well since I couldn't really care less. He probably must have realized the gravity of the situation and was getting depressed. I could also hear Mia screaming something over the phone in the background, but I ignored her and hung up. I then blocked my husband's number and left the rest to my lawyer. After that, I successfully got a divorce from my husband, and he also paid me alimony, even though it was a small amount. According to my ex-colleagues, whom I kept in touch with, word of my ex-husband's divorce spread quickly through the company, and they were calling him how obsessed he was with his own sister, and as a morally harassing jerk, and they all gave him the cold shoulder. And now he is living with his dearly beloved Mia in an inexpensive apartment. But since Mia has been selfish and spoiled all this time, Lance was gradually getting tired of her both mentally and physically. Linda and Phil seem to be living comfortably in a very nice nursing home, and when I go to see them once in a while, they greet me, and they both look really healthy, which really is a relief. I really do hope that they would stop supporting their ungrateful children and spend more and more money for themselves from now on. Meanwhile, I have successfully found a new job, and I am enjoying the life of living alone while working really hard for my job. I don't want to be in love for a while, so I'm going to devote myself to work and try my best to get promoted and enhance my career. Both Lance and Mia, who are really selfish and obsessive, are really the worst. I do hope they both go straight to hell. Don't they owe anything to their own parents for providing them for them until now? I'm really sorry that Daisy had to be pushed around by the two of them. I am so glad that Daisy is no longer with those horrible people. I wish Daisy, Linda, and Phil a happy and peaceful life from now on. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
I was in an accident on my sister-in-law's wedding day. Divine punishment befalls my husband, who forced me to attend.
Today is my dear sister-in-law's wedding, but here I am lying in a hospital bed. On the way to the venue, I got into a collision with a car that ran a red light. Why does this have to happen on such an important day? I rarely ever get into accidents. Amidst all this, I received an angry call from my husband. Where are you now? I had an accident, and I am at the hospital. What? It's my sister's big day. Do you understand that? I understand, but... Shut up. Listen to me. You crawl if you have to, but you must attend. Got it? Yes. I told the doctor, who tried to stop me about the situation, and headed to the venue in a taxi in my battered state. When my husband noticed my presence, he criticized me in my hospital gown. What the heck are you wearing? Are you trying to ruin my sister's big day? You really are a loser. I had just been thinking that maybe I shouldn't have come at all, when things unexpectedly took a turn. My name is Nora, and I am 33 years old. After graduating from technical school, I obtained a qualification as a wedding planner and now work for a bridal production company, supporting weddings. I began to want to become a wedding planner in my high school years. When I attended my cousin's wedding, I was captivated by the beautiful atmosphere. Not only the bride and groom, but also all the other guests were able to smile. When I found out that there was a job that could create such an atmosphere, I began to want to work in that field. My long-cherished dream has come true, and I am now doing the job I have always wanted to do. There are people who have many meetings before the wedding, and there are those who leave everything to us. Among the various couples, I always try to make it the best wedding for them. 2 years ago, I got married as well. My partner's name is Troy, who was a classmate in high school. We were in the same music club, but we didn't start dating back then. We reunited at a high school reunion a few years ago and developed a relationship that led to marriage. At first, after getting married, I was very happy to be living the life I wanted with the person I loved. However, now that 2 years have passed since their marriage, my true feelings have changed. I think that I should not have gotten married. This feeling started in the first year of our marriage. Although we had small arguments on a daily basis, there were times when we didn't talk to each other all day long. One day, I had to work overtime, which was unusual, and came home after 8 p.m. Before leaving the workplace, I checked my smartphone and saw that my husband had called me dozens of times. I called him back, but there was no sign of him answering. When I became anxious and hurried back home, there he was, lying on the sofa. I ran to him, worried, and called out to him, "Hey, Troy, are you okay?" "Huh? What do you mean?" "Well, I saw a bunch of missed calls from you, so I thought something might have happened." "What? Don't you know why I called you?" My husband is staring at me in a bad mood, and eventually, he started fidgeting out of frustration. I couldn't help but sense his irritation. I had no idea why my husband was so angry. Did I inadvertently do something to upset him? With that thought in mind, I asked him hastily, Hey, did I do something? Did I do something to make you so angry? Huh. It's because you came home late. You are a wife. But you prioritize your work over your husband? Try? My voice trembled, involuntary, as I saw my husband's demon-like expression. It was the first time I had ever seen him like this, so I didn't know how to respond. Ignoring my fear, my husband clicked his tongue intentionally and gave me a disdainful look, then spoke to me roughly as if he couldn't be bothered. Listen, you don't have enough awareness as a wife. I married a woman like you who's nothing special. You should be grateful to me. Troy, what are you talking about? We got married because we love each other. Huh, there is no way that's true. I only talked to you at the reunion because you had a better face than most. What? That's a lie, right? It doesn't matter. You ended up falling in love with me anyway. Well, I thought you were more capable of doing household chores. But that was a miscalculation. That's terrible. What do you think of me? I'm not your housekeeper. It sounds like my husband is giving a cold, menacing glare as I try to argue back with him. I was visibly shaking, and he seems to be looking down on me. Listen, you are in the position of someone who was married off. Therefore, you should be grateful to me. Got it? What? We're not an equal couple? That's just on the surface. I didn't really fall in love with you or anything like that. Then what's the point of being married? Let's get a divorce right now. Are you sure about that? Your parents were happy about this marriage, weren't they? Plus, you get along well with my family. Can you really just decide to get a divorce all of a sudden like this? As my husband uttered those words, my chest tightened with a strong grip. He was right. My parents were overjoyed with our marriage, and his parents also treated me like their own daughter. Even his sister adored me. Could I really make them all sad with my selfish feelings? I couldn't hurt the people who cared for me. My husband knew my kind-hearted nature well, and that was why he could make such a strong statement. He was taking advantage of my kindness. His arrogance angered me, but I didn't have the courage to stand up to him. Since then, my husband treated me like a housekeeper. If I came home late, he complained. And if I wasn't prepared for meals or bath on his schedule, he would yell mercilessly. He even threw things at me when he was in a bad mood. Every time he did that, I poured out my thoughts and feelings into my diary. I wrote down what he did and said, and how I felt at the time. By recording these events in detail, I was able to calm my emotions. This kind of married life continued for 2 years. I had gotten used to it, but my heart was still worn down. One day, some happy news came to me. Huh, marriage? I involuntarily asked back in a loud voice. The person on the phone was my husband's sister, Iris. Yes, I'm getting married, Iris happily told me over the phone. Oh, congratulations, Iris. I'm so happy for you. Thank you very much. And there's something I want to ask you, Nora. Something you want to ask me? I'll do anything I can for you. Actually, we haven't decided on a wedding venue or anything yet. So I really want to consult with you as a wedding planner. With me? Of course. I'll be glad to do it. Really? Thank you, sis. I love you. The next day, I started to carve out time for my beloved sister-in-law and began to plan her wedding. I knew well that there should be no difference in how I treated my clients, but I still wanted to provide the best wedding possible for Iris. who I cared about deeply. After about 5 months, the preparations for the wedding were completed without a hitch. I don't work at the wedding venue, so my job as a bridal production company ends here. But this time, I can attend the wedding ceremony that I supported as a relative. There's nothing more joyful than this. Making my sister-in-law's wedding the best it can be, and being able to attend it myself, has a significant meaning to me. On the day of the wedding ceremony, I had some business to attend to at work, so I was heading to the venue separately from my husband. After quickly finishing my work at the company, I headed straight to the venue. While looking at my watch and crossing the pedestrian crossing, a car came running towards me, ignoring the traffic signal, and collided with my body. With a dull sound of thud, my consciousness was lost. When I came to, I was lying on a hospital bed. My body was in pain, and bandages were wrapped around my arms and legs. That's right, I was in an accident at that time. Fortunately, I didn't seem to have broken any bones. However, there is a dull sensation in my right foot, and I cannot move it well. For now, I called the nurse and waited for her arrival. The nurse confirmed that I had awakened and called the doctor.
You're Nora, right? Do you remember colliding with the car that ran a red light at the intersection?
Yes, I do. It was a dark green car, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Fortunately, you didn't suffer any serious injuries. That's great news. The numbness you're feeling in certain area should improve gradually with physical therapy during your hospital stay.
I see. Thank you very much. The doctor leaves the room, and I laid back down on the bed. It's then that I remembered something important. Wait, isn't today Iris's wedding? As I search through my bag for my phone, it starts ringing.
Hey, Nora!
Where are you and what are you doing? Frantically responding to the call, my husband shouts at me over the phone.
Iris's wedding is about to start, you know.
Troy, thank God you called. Honey, it's perfect timing. Actually, I got into an accident on my way to the wedding.
What? An accident?
Yeah, so I don't think I'll be able to make it today. My husband yelled at me, as if my words were a nuisance. His voice was piercingly loud.
Don't you dare mess around. Today is my sister's big day. You know that, right?
I know, but right now...
What? Shut up. Listen, even if you have to crawl, you're gonna attend the ceremony. Got it?
But... I realized that there was no point in explaining further, since he wouldn't listen anyway. Talking to him would be futile. I felt our marriage crumble before my eyes, and I became aware of this. I had had enough. Normally, I wouldn't be able to attend the ceremony in my current state. However, I desperately wanted to be there for Iris's wedding. But if I did attend, would it mean we would continue in this deteriorating marriage? As I pondered this question, I slowly got out of bed, grabbing my bag, and left the hospital room. As I stumbled down the hallway, a nurse stopped me as expected. I explained the situation to my doctor and managed to hail a taxi in my battered state. 30 minutes later, I arrived at the wedding venue, and people began to stir at my appearance. That was when I finally realized that I had come to the ceremony in my hospital gown. However, there was no time to change now. I decided to quietly sit in a corner until the ceremony began. As I sat on my chair, thinking about this, I heard someone call my name.
Nora!
My husband runs towards me with a demonic expression on his face. He looks down at me and says coldly, "What the heck are you wearing? Are you kidding me?"
I'm not kidding. I came here in a hurry from the hospital, so I ended up in this outfit.
Don't talk back to me. Huh. Come on. It's supposed to be the big day for Iris. And you're ruining the mood with your ugly face.
I'm sorry.
Seriously. Listen, you are not allowed to say a word today. Just behave yourself. Got it? Oh, okay.
As I nod, my husband looks down on me with a triumphant expression. I thought to myself that I would have been better not to come in the first place if it was going to be like this. That's when Iris, her face red, appeared.
Hey, Troy! What was that just now?
Troy notices her and asks,
"Oh, Iris, what's wrong? Are you ready?"
"Never mind that. Just answer me. What was that conversation just now? Why is Nora in such a state here?"
Listen, she got into an accident on her way here. She's so clumsy. But don't worry, I made sure to bring her to the venue for you.
Huh? An accident? Is it true, Nora? I slowly nod at my sister-in-law staring at me, and then her face turns red as if on fire, and she hits my husband with all her might. With a dry sound of a slap, my husband's head tilts. Troy holds his left cheek and snaps at Iris.
"Hey, Iris! What the hell are you doing?"
"That's my word. What the hell is going on here? Why did you forcefully bring her here, even though she's in such state? Are you crazy or something?"
Wait a minute, Iris. I did it for your sake.
How is this for my sake? My beloved sister is in such a terrible state. Did you think that I would be happy seeing her like this?
Well, that's...
My sister-in-law gives my husband a piercing glare, and Troy flinches at her intense gaze. I can't believe my own brother would do something like this. It's inhumane.
Iris, you don't have to say it like that.
What? I'm controlling my emotions here and being mindful of the situation. You are a scumbag. You're not even part of our family. You don't even have to come to the wedding.
Why? I did it for your sake.
My husband turned to me, tears welling up in his eyes, and desperately clung to me.
Nora, please say something to her too. That I did it for Iris. Right, Nora? Come on.
What?
Why me? Isn't it obvious? If you hadn't gotten into an accident, we wouldn't have had to do this.
My husband, instead of acknowledging his own mistakes, blamed me for getting into an accident. I took a deep breath and said to my husband, "So, it's my fault that I got into an accident? That's what you think?" I wanted to be here as soon as possible too. It's Iris's important wedding after all. I couldn't hold back my emotions. Despite that, instead of comforting me, you told me to crawl over here. What do you think I am? Some kind of joke?
Well, that's...
I don't need you to tell me. I care about Iris and wanted to participate in the wedding from the beginning. That's why I listened to your stupid demands and crawled my way over here.
Calm down. It's a wedding today. We can talk later.
Shut up. I can't forgive you for trampling all over someone's feelings like this on a day like today. I have no intention of continuing to be married to a person like you any longer. I'm not your maid. Do whatever you want by yourself. I said that and headed towards the exit. My sister-in-law Iris supported my back as if to comfort me.
Hey, Nora, I'll take a lot of pictures of the wedding for you to see later. Iris, with tears in my eyes, my sister-in-law continued. Don't cry. I want you to see me at my happiest more than anyone else, okay? Yeah, thank you. I got back in a taxi and returned to the hospital. The attending doctor scolded me severely, and I ended up being hospitalized for several days. Later, I heard from Iris that my husband couldn't attend the wedding ceremony. Relatives who had overheard our conversation became furious and rained down insults on Troy. They even said that he wasn't a member of the family and he was kicked out of the venue. With encouragement from Iris, I decided to divorce my husband. The diary where I had written down his harassment turned out to be advantageous for the divorce. Although all of this happened after I was discharged from the hospital, I no longer wanted to give up on my life. I couldn't sacrifice my precious life for a man like him. I will be busy with the divorce process for a while, but I still believe I will eventually be happy and continue to fight for it.
The pet camera captured footage of the affair between my husband and an unexpected person. All of the relatives watched the video and...
It happened during the memorial service. When I checked the pet camera installed in my house, an unbelievable scene came into view.
Hey, is it okay to do this? Annabelle will cry, won't she?
It's fine. It's boring even if I do it with her.
Why are Eddie and Candace together? I couldn't believe my eyes. 2 naked people were on my sofa. I involuntarily squinted my eyes. I never thought that I would witness my husband and my sister's affair on the day of my grandfather's memorial service. The 2 of them, completely unaware of the camera's existence, continued their conversation.
It's uncomfortable to be with Annabelle. I can't do what I want, you know?
I understand.
My parents are also neurotic and nitpicky. So, they're only getting along well with Annabelle. But, well, there's also the inheritance issue, so we have to be clever about it.
Yeah, you're right. I should have married you, Candace. Even in bed, you're the best.
My sister kissed my husband's cheek with a smile. My husband Eddie also turned his hand towards my sister, letting out a careless voice. I almost dropped my tablet. Among the relatives who were chatting amiably, my brain, which had witnessed such a thing alone, was not angry but calm. I quickly turned up the volume on my tablet, and at the same time, my sister's voice resounded. Immediately afterwards, the relatives all turned towards me. My name is Annabelle, and my husband is Eddie. We live together as just the 2 of us. Eddie is a company employee, and I am a housewife, leading a very ordinary life. As for children, we have decided not to have any for now, because Eddie's work is busy. In return, I brought Marley, a Pomeranian from my parents' house. Eddie also readily agreed, so we became a family of 2 humans and 1 dog. It was lively with Marley around, and I also felt more at ease. Moreover, we became friends with our in-laws who lived nearby because of our dogs. They had a Maltese named Belle, who was very friendly. They quickly became accustomed to me and Marley, and I started talking a lot with our in-laws. We started going for walks together and going to the dog park. However, a few months ago, Marley passed away due to illness. Since Marley, who was my emotional support, crossed the rainbow bridge, I became really depressed. I couldn't do much of the housework even though I was a housewife. Eddie didn't say anything. but he didn't cuddle up to me either. However, my in-laws were worried about me and invited me to take walks with Belle or come over to their house. While being saved by my in-laws' kindness and Belle's loveliness, I slowly recovered. But I still couldn't tidy up Marley's toys and pet camera. I sigh while looking at the stuffed animal with Marley's paw print, feeling like if I cleaned them up, Marley would really be gone. Then, the incident happened on a clear day when I was vacuuming. The doorbell rang, and I thought it might be a delivery. I looked at the monitor. Candace? Hey, Annabelle, are you there? Open up. I immediately recognized her as my sister, who was wearing a dress that revealed a lot of skin and showed off her beautiful face. My sister and I did not look alike or share any similar traits in personality, and we didn't get along well. Furthermore, my sister had a bad habit of taking things that did not belong to her, including my boyfriends. I had confronted her multiple times after she had taken my boyfriends, but she always responded with, "Isn't it the fault of the one who is easily swayed?" without any hint of remorse. I had thought that things would finally calm down after my sister got married and moved far away, but I still felt uneasy as I reluctantly opened the door. My sister greeted me with a smile, wearing bright red lipstick that looked like rose petals. It only served to make me even more upset. "I came because I returned to my parents' house." "What? Did you come back because you got divorced?" "It's not that serious. We just had a little argument." "Well, I'm coming in." Saying that, my sister takes off her high heels and strides in. She used to avoid coming to the house because she disliked animals. But she must have heard from our parents that Marley was gone. Ignoring my bitter expression, my sister happily looks around the room, inspecting every nook and cranny. "This is a nice room. Isn't Eddie's family home nearby?" "Yes. It's about halfway between my family home and Eddie's family home." "Huh. Building a house near your husband's family home. It's quite daring, isn't it?" While making stinging remarks, my sister looked at the wedding photo displayed on the shelf. Suddenly, she traced her finger over Eddie's face, and I felt a chill run down my spine. She's not planning to steal my husband, is she? I thought, but then quickly reconsidered. My sister was into muscular men, and Eddie was quite skinny, so he was probably not her type. Despite knowing this, I felt uneasy watching my sister's back. A few days after her arrival, we had a family event, my grandfather's memorial service. My in-laws also offered to help. "Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the trouble. I had business dealings with your grandfather, and I was planning to participate in the first place. That's why I thought it would be better to help. I really appreciate your help. I want my sister to learn from her. I don't have time to spend on the deceased, you know." After that, it seems that my sister went somewhere saying so. As strange as it seemed, it might be better than being caught up in the situation with my sister. After the memorial service was over and we were preparing for the meal, I was approached by my cousin's children. They said they wanted to see Marley. Their innocent words made my heart ache a little, but I couldn't blame the children for it. "Marley has gone to heaven. But we have photos and videos, so let's look at those, okay?" I handed them the tablet and briefly explained how to use it. The tablet contained a lot of footage from the pet camera and videos of Marley that I had taken. The children immediately became quiet and were glued to the tablet screen together. I went into the kitchen to help my mother. I was about to bring some drinks when I noticed the gas stove. Someone had apparently left the kettle boiling on the stove and forgot to turn off the heat. As I tried to put out the fire in a panic, I accidentally burned the sleeve of my morning clothes. Oh no! Fire! What? Fire? Just as I thought I heard my mother's voice, suddenly water was thrown at me. As I widened my eyes in surprise, my mother, who seemed flustered, came closer. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Because I heard you say fire. Oh no, you were soaking wet. What should we do? It's okay, Mom. I'll have Eddie bring me some clothes from home. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm gonna make a phone call. Eddie was also planning to come to the family event. But due to a last-minute work emergency, he had to take a nap and was planning to join later in the evening. I thought that he would be awake by this time, so tried calling him, but he didn't pick up the phone. However, our house was too far to walk. Then I remembered about the pet camera. If he was awake, the camera in the living room would capture him. If not, I would just call him until he wakes up. I took the tablet from the kids and opened the app. The camera showed a figure on the living room sofa. Oh, Eddie's awake? I thought to myself, and was about to call him when another person appeared on the screen. Huh? Is that Candace? When I zoomed in, there was no mistaking it. It was my sister. I plugged in my earphone and listened to the audio. Hey, is it okay to do this? Annabelle will cry, won't she? It's fine. It's boring even if I do it with her. Why are Eddie and Candace together? I was completely frozen by the shocking video captured by the pet camera. Eddie was shirtless, and for some reason, my sister Candace was wearing a white coat and posing as a female doctor. They were sitting on the sofa with a sense of intimacy that seemed like they were lovers. I never imagined that I would see my husband and my sister's affair on the day of my grandfather's memorial service. The two of them didn't even notice the camera and continued talking. Being with Annabelle makes me uncomfortable. I feel like I can't do what I want. I understand. My parents are also neurotic and nitpicky. So they are only getting along well with Annabelle. But, well, there's also the inheritance issue. So we have to be clever about it. Yeah, you're right. I should have married you, Candace. Even in bed, you are the best. My sister kissed Eddie on the cheek with a satisfied expression, and Eddie put his arm around my sister. I struggled to hold on to my tablet, feeling like I was about to drop it. I can't believe this. I absolutely can't forgive these two. As the two of them blatantly began to get intimate, I couldn't help but screamed. Just as I was about to burst into the house, I heard a loud noise from behind me. I took off my earphones and quickly turned around, only to see my mother-in-law with a pale face standing there. This is my son and your sister, right? Well, about that, I don't intend to hide anything, but I don't want to upset my mother-in-law. However, as I tried to approach her, my earbuds accidentally came out. Along with the sound of my sister and Eddie's intimacy, the screen clearly showed my sister with her hand on Eddie's pants. I panicked and tried to stop the video, but it was my mother-in-law who stopped me. I looked at her, not understanding her actions, and she shook her head with a pale face. Don't stop. This will be evidence, so let's keep it all on record. She acted quickly from there. she immediately asked both my father-in-law and my parents to watch the video, and instructed my cousin to take their children to another room. As everyone gathered to watch the footage, the two of them began to spew out horrible words one after another. My family are all country bumpkins. I'm only interested in their money. Marriage is too boring. And so on. It's all things that make me want to cover my ears. After a while, my father-in-law stood up with a bright red face. Come on, I'll drive. We all nod and head towards my house. Of course, the camera is still recording. When we arrive at the house, the living room lights is on. As we approach the entrance, we hear a loud voice that seemed to be announcing that things are happening right now. Annabelle, you stay behind. My father-in-law took the key from me, and I stepped back as instructed. My mother-in-law patted my shoulder sympathetically, and it made me feel slightly better. When we entered the room, my sister was straddling Eddie on the sofa. Eddie, what the heck are you doing? What, Dad? My sister immediately realized that she's in trouble and tried to run away with her clothes, but our father caught her. She tried to escape for a while, but eventually calmed down after our mother slapped her. Our mother looked at my sister with bloodshot eyes, which made my chest tighten. After that, my sister and Eddie were made to sit in the living room and explain the whole situation. My sister was initially drawn to Eddie's income. He was a type she had never dated before. But she was also bored with married life and just wanted to try something new. On the other hand, Eddie had always been interested in older women and cosplay. Even after marrying me, he didn't change his hobby. So, he easily accepted my sister's invitation. It was a truly unbelievable reason, and we all felt completely helpless. I can't believe it! You still haven't cured your habit of touching other people's things.
It's his fault for being so easily swayed. That's enough. You are at fault for seducing my husband. Grow up.
Yeah, it's your sister's fault, not mine, right? So you forgive me, won't you? What? There is no way I'll forgive you, you pervert. Several months had passed since that stupid incident, and I began attending a grooming school to obtain my qualification as a trimmer. Although there was a lot to learn, it was still enjoyable to be involved in something I liked. There were also people at the school who had gone through divorce, and we quickly became friends. Afterwards, I demanded compensation from my husband and my sister, and divorced him. As for Eddie, he lost his job due to his father's connections and was heavily criticized in the workplace because of the reason. He lived with my sister for a while, but they soon had a falling out and broke up. As for my sister, she works in the entertainment industry and often changes jobs. She is still self-centered, which makes it difficult for her to keep a job for very long. Meanwhile, my in-laws still treat me kindly. Annabelle, it's been a while since we finished moving. Would you like to come and visit? Yes, I'd love to. I also want to see Belle. You know what? Belle has been very popular lately. My in-laws left their house and started a new life in a newly built apartment near a dog park. With this opportunity, my mother-in-law started an SNS account to share Belle's daily life, which has become very popular. Belle has now become a celebrity in the town. I pet Marley's head on my cell phone screen as I wait for my next class to start. I used to find it difficult to look back at the photos, but thanks to the pet camera and Marley, I found out Eddie's infidelity. I believe that Marley cut off that bad relationship for me. Marley, thank you. I love you. I told my beloved family and took a new step forward.
I got a call from Mom. We were changing plans and heading back home.
What? What are you talking about all of a sudden? We were on our way to Alaska for a family vacation. But as soon as we arrived at the airport, my husband dropped this bombshell.
Mom comes first, no matter what. That's it. I'm going back alone.
I couldn't believe he was serious about leaving us behind and actually going back home from our vacation spot. My name is Jennifer. I'm 30. I've been married to Taylor for 7 years. Ever since we got married, he wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. So I've been supporting our family in that role. We have a daughter, Amy, who is about to turn 4. She's adorable, and I love her so much. But I wonder if it was since her birth that Taylor changed. When it was just the two of us, he was so kind. He used to come home hungry after work.
I'm home. Is that stew I smell? Smells good.
Welcome back. It will be ready soon. Go wash your hands.
Got it. I will hang up my suit and toss my socks in the wash.
Thanks. Please do. He was cooperative with household chores, accustomed to taking care of his own basics. However, since our daughter was born, it feels like he's regressed to being a child himself. Maybe it's because I've been so focused on taking care of our daughter that I haven't paid as much attention to him. His mother Wendy started visiting more often and even began to badmouth me. One day, Taylor and his mother ganged up on me.
Hey Jennifer, Mom is here, and you didn't even think to get a cake?
I can't just conjure one up. I didn't even know your mom was coming.
Then go buy one now. It's rude. Right, Mom?
She joined in, criticizing me. Exactly. How can my son be so sweet and you so thoughtless? I'm sorry. I will go buy one now. Just so you know, skip the supermarket cakes. I can't stand anything less than a $13 cake from a bakery. Yeah, right. I thought to myself, recalling how she wolfed down discount cream puffs from the supermarket just the other day. Despite my irritation, I headed to the bakery with my daughter. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law is extremely overbearing with her only son, my husband, ignoring our needs and demanding we visit her. The demands for visit have become more frequent, and Taylor gets moody if we refuse. If I don't accompany him on these visits, I face a lecture from her. Jennifer, why didn't you come today? She would interrogate over the phone. Apologizing didn't ease her anger. Sorry doesn't cut it. If you were sorry, you wouldn't do it in the first place. But my daughter had plans with her friends today. What? What are you talking about? Your mother-in-law is calling, and you prioritize other things? That's disrespectful. I'm sorry, but it was already in the calendar. A wife should always accompany her husband. A mother-in-law's word is law. Isn't that common sense? Which era are you living in? I wondered, frustrated by her outdated demands. Yet, as a homemaker, considering divorce isn't an option for me. Reluctantly, I've been just going with the flow. Then, one summer day, we planned a 3-day family trip to Alaska. It was our first time flying with Amy, who got excited the moment she sat down. Mommy, planes are amazing, like birds. Yes, they are. We are going to fly even higher soon. Really? I can't wait! But despite the special occasion, Taylor couldn't peel his eyes away from his phone. Sneaking a peek, I saw he was chatting with his mother. You've got to be kidding me. Even during our vacation? I thought, annoyed that he felt the need to keep in constant contact when we had already informed her of our travel plans. I swallowed my frustration, seeing Amy's excited face, and chose not to start a fight. Upon landing in Alaska, Taylor shocked me with his declaration.
Mom called. We were changing plans and going back home.
What? I blurted out in disbelief. What are you suddenly talking about? Going back home? We just got here.
There is no choice. Mom is feeling lonely.
Well, we had informed her about this trip. Amy was looking forward to it. And now you want to ruin our vacation? Your mom is being unreasonable.
Are you talking shit about my mother? Should I even consider you my wife? Mom always says a wife should accompany her husband.
Why should a family vacation be disrupted like this though? I usually have caved and turned back to his mother's house. But this time, I had a reason to stand firm. My college friend Sherry and her husband owned a restaurant, and we planned to visit it during our trip. Taylor knows about this too. Still, he prioritized his mother over our plans, which I couldn't accept. This time, I had to make him understand. Look, we were supposed to visit Sherry's place later. They are expecting us. I've already confirmed our arrival.
So what? Just cancel it.
That's not the point. They must have prepared a lot of food, expecting us. We can't just bail now. He scowled, clearly annoyed, and shouted.
Enough! I don't care about that. Mom is the top priority.
You're still saying that? She's not a child. She can manage a bit of disappointment.
Cut it out. You are prioritizing your friend over my mother?
I didn't mean it like that.
I get it now. I didn't think you were such a heartless person. That's it. I'm going back alone.
My furious husband left me and our daughter behind and hurried back home alone. You've got to be kidding me. To think that we traveled all the way to Alaska for a family trip, only for him to rush back home to prioritize his mother. Well, what else can I do but to enjoy the rest of the trip with my daughter? We ended up visiting my friend's store without him and stayed at the hotel we had booked. When we returned from Alaska, the situation had worsened. Taylor and Wendy, both red-faced with anger, were waiting for us. Jennifer, are you out of your mind? Enjoying the trip by yourself after sending Taylor back alone?
Right?
As soon as she saw me, she started yelling at me furiously. What do you expect me to say? We had told you about the trip in advance, hadn't we? So what? Whether it's a trip or even if parents are dying. If I, your mother-in-law, say come back, you come back. That's a wife's duty. That's absurd. Listening to our exchange, my husband shouted,
Enough! I can't stand your attitude anymore. I want a divorce.
Divorce? I was shocked, unable to believe that the conversation had taken such a drastic turn. Wait a minute. Divorce? Just like that?
Shut up! You've never shown enough respect for me or my mother. I'm done with you.
You're joking, right? What about Amy?
I will live with my mom. You can just take care of the kid on your own. Don't ever show up at me or my mother's place again.
With that, he slammed the divorce papers down. Wendy chimed in from the side. Exactly. Divorce him now. You are such a terrible wife, not at all suitable for my son. To be honest, your daughter isn't cute at all. Just leave already. How could you say that? My parents were already in a nursing home, and the family home had been sold. As a homemaker, I had nowhere to go if kicked out of the apartment in my husband's name. But no matter how much I tried to reason with them, their minds were made up, and I was forced to sign the divorce papers. The divorce was finalized under the condition that he would pay child support. Wendy, having sold her home, moved into the apartment, forcing my daughter and me out. Finally, the nuisance is gone.
Now it's just the two of us, and we can live comfortably.
I heard my husband and his mother say mockingly as I was leaving. Exactly. It's like a dream to be living with you again.
All right. Next, I will find a more obedient and good wife.
That's the spirit, Taylor. We need to find a wife who is submissive and capable. Let's not make the same mistake again.
I know, Mom. I won't screw up like that again.
Hearing their conversation filled me with rage. I won't forgive them. After all they have said and done, I will get my revenge someday. They can live carefree, for now that is. As their laughter faded, I slammed the door shut and left the apartment. Though I had nowhere to go, I vowed to get back at them someday. Holding my daughter's hand, I headed to a family restaurant, wondering what to do next. Then, my friend Sherry called. Hey Jennifer, thanks for the other day. Sherry? Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful time. And sorry about my husband not being able to join. Don't worry about it. How are your husband and mother-in-law doing? Well, about that, I couldn't hold back any longer and poured out my heart to her. After listening, she paused before cheerfully offering, So why don't you come to my place? What? Your place? In Alaska? We've got extra room, and we'd be thinking about hiring more staff anyway. Could you come and help us as a live-in? Really? Wouldn't I be imposing on you and your husband? Of course not. We've got enough furniture, and there's nothing to worry about. Just come over right away. Thank you, really. Thank you, Sherry. And so, my daughter and I set off for Alaska again. My friends, who had no children, took care of everything for both of us. I worked at her restaurant and eventually obtained a culinary license. A year has passed since I started working, and just as I felt my life was stabilizing, my ex-husband called.
Help me, Jennifer. Where are you? I will come to get you. I need your help.
Help? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Just listen.
What do you want? I'm busy.
Mom fell down the stairs and needs care. I'm all alone and really struggling. I can't handle work and caregiving.
He hastily listed all the convenient reasons.
Both Mom and I are willing to forgive you. It must be hard raising a child on your own, right? So you can come back. From now on, let's support my mom together as a couple.
Honestly, I was speechless. After being pushed into a unilateral divorce and kicked out with my daughter by him and his mother a year ago. And now, he expects me to provide care? Ridiculous. Who would agree to such a convenient request? Furious, I told him, Forgive? You've got to be kidding me. There's no way I'd agree to such a convenient request now.
What? You're going to abandon me and Mom?
But you abandoned us. Besides, we are divorced, so you're no longer family. That includes your mom.
Wait, Mom has become really selfish since she needed care, and I'm really struggling. So help.
What? Your beloved mom's whims. Fulfill them yourself. She's the precious mom you chose over your wife and daughter.
But I have no one else to rely on but you.
Not my problem. That's what you get for your choices. I will take care of Amy, so don't worry. You enjoy your life with your beloved mommy.
Come on, don't be so cold.
Angered, I took a deep breath. Gosh, you're so annoying. From the day you made me sign those divorce papers, our relationship was over. Don't come crawling back now. It's disgusting. Never contact me again. If you keep this up, I will call the police. With that, I hung up on him. Despite continued calls and emails from him, I blocked them all. Thus, I was finally freed from that family's curse. Later, unable to endure his demanding mother's care, my ex-husband quit his job and disappeared, abandoned by her son. Wendy was passed around relatives before finally being placed in a facility. Rumors say Taylor has been trying to find me through friends after disappearing. Well, he won't find me. Even if he does, I will just report him for harassment. When that time comes, I will make sure he pays all the overdue child support in one go. Meanwhile, my friend's restaurant has flourished, leading to the opening of a branch, and I was appointed as the manager. My daughter has started elementary school and is enjoying her days. Mom, I'm off. Take care. Have a good day. Thanks, you too. Good luck at the restaurant, Mom. Thanks, sweetie. I will do my best. Being a manager keeps me busy, but my life now is incomparably more fulfilling than before. All thanks to my friend Sherry, for whom I can't be thankful enough. It's because my ex-husband rushed back home that I have my current life. Life is unpredictable. I want to live each day with gratitude, never taking my current happiness for granted.